Class, welcome to the first chapter on speaking. Today we're going to learn some important aspects about public speaking. Let's imagine, for example, we're talking about the power of public speaking. You're a trainee in a company, and all of you will hopefully be that one day. And several of you in the company are trying to win a management position. You are asked to evaluate a project, then present your ideas for moving the project forward in the company. Those who are in charge of hiring the CEO, vice presidents, will observe the different managers talking or the trainees talking, and they will judge which one gets the job. Your ability to communicate and to persuade will take you far above other people in your company. It is very important. You give a well-defined explanation, you're clear, you're well organized, your language is strong and understandable. The people around the table look at you and say, this person can go far in this company. Let's say you have a child with a learning disability. The school board is going to cut the special education teacher for children with disabilities. And so you go and meet with the school board and you argue your point. You tell them about how well your child has progressed because of this teacher. You tell them, perhaps even let your child come and tell how he has learned from this special teacher that has been there. You get others perhaps to give testimony to the benefit of this special teacher. You show them how that the cost is really not as great as they might be thinking. You argue all of these points and they listen to you and they keep the special education teacher. Or you're going to give a farewell toast for a CEO, and you need to know how to organize your thoughts and to give an inspiring talk to honor someone who is retiring. So all of those are ways that you might use public speaking. The American Management Association interviewed 2,000 managers. They asked them what was the most important skill set that they wanted from new employees. They said, number one on the list, the ability to clearly communicate with others. There are going to be many times that you're going to use public speaking in your university experience at MTSU. You'll have classes where you have to make presentations. These skills will serve you very, very well, especially organizing your thoughts, outlining your thoughts, presenting them in a clear, understandable fashion. That's going to help you get good grades in these other courses. One day, if you happen to have children, you're going to have to persuade them to stop playing video games and do their homework. Sometimes you're going to ask for a raise. You're going to have to be hired one day. So you're going to have to make a good presentation of yourself and your communication skills. You're always going to have to influence others to comply with your request. This is a crucial skill for you to learn, student, and I want you to work hard at this. It will go a long way to helping you advance in our coming challenging economy. I like what Ralph Waldo Emerson said. Speech is power. Speech is to persuade, to convert, to compel. You're going to have to compel people to follow you and to agree with your ideas. So make a commitment now that I'm going to do my very best to develop this skill in this class, and you will go far. There are some similarities between conversation and communication or public speaking. We organize our thoughts when we're in conversation. Perhaps we're giving directions to someone and we tell them, well, you need to turn right here at this store, the Walgreens, go down about 1 mile, turn left on Love Court, 5th house on the right. So we organize our thoughts. We do things in order. We also tailor our message. If we're describing something, for example, how a pearl is made, we would use language for a group of students, one set of language. We would use different language if we were talking to a 6-year-old brother or sister or niece or nephew or cousin. We tell the story for maximum impact. In other words, you put things in order, like telling a joke. You save the punchline till last. And in speaking, there are times when you will do that very same thing. And then we adapt feedback. If we're in conversation and someone looks confused, they don't understand what we're saying, then we back up, we explain, define, and then move forward. Speaking is a bit different, however. Speaking is highly structured. We'll be using outlines in 3 of our speeches. They will be very carefully done. Class, this is not hard. You can do this. You learn to subordinate your ideas and to structure them visually. That's what an outline is. It's just a visual structure of subordinated ideas. We'll show you how to do that. It isn't difficult. You're going to use formal language in your speech. Of course we don't use slang or inappropriate language in our speech. We always use polite, considerate language when we speak. And then the delivery method, of course, is different. It's a formal delivery. We stand with good posture. We look at the audience. We have strong eye contact. All of these areas of delivery we'll cover and teach you about in the coming days that we have class together. Now, let's move on to confidence. A lot of people are afraid of speaking. Perhaps you are even a little bit nervous. You might even be a junior or a senior who has put this off for some time, and now you have to take it to graduate. Well, let me just tell you, it is not as fearful as you think. You're a little nervous when you first get up on the first one, the second one gets easier, the third one gets much easier. You'll be able to do this. When they interviewed 9,000 people about social situations, the #1 fear was public speaking. So I understand your concern, your anxiety, but we will help you overcome that anxiety in this class. I want you to know that nervousness is normal. It is normal. Stage fright is merely just anxiety about speaking. Most of the time we're afraid about what people will think about us. But class, we are all for each other in this class. Every student in here wants you to do well. We're all in the same situation, so don't let this get the best of you. Even Oprah Winfrey and Jay Leno, Winston Churchill, Abraham Lincoln all expressed how they were nervous before they spoke. You will be. I've spoken thousands of times. I still get nervous before I speak. The heart races. That's adrenaline. It's normal. You'll have it. And in this stage, there will be excitement that will be going on inside of you. You'll have butterflies. And what we'll teach you how to do is to get those butterflies to fly in formation and control that energy. Really, positive nervousness is a good thing. It really energizes you for your speech. So you should be a little bit nervous. Everybody is. It's okay. Generally, you get over it pretty quickly after you get started. Then, how do we control this nervousness? Well, experience, of course, is just getting up in front of the class and speaking. You have to do it more and more, over and over, and the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. You have to prepare strong outlines, good solid research. We'll take you to the library and show you how to do research. And then you practice and practice and practice. Practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So we want you to practice. And then positive thoughts. Think that you will do well. Psychologists tell us that you need to think 5 positive thoughts to erase every 1 negative thought. See yourself doing well, and you will. Visualization is, again, just that discipline of visualizing yourself doing a great speech, confidently communicating with others, and the audience listening with interest. I want you to notice, too, that nervousness is not visible to the audience. Very, very rarely is it visible. You're up there talking, we don't notice it. And if that's what you're afraid of, don't worry about it, because we, for the most part, cannot see it. And those of you who are perfectionists, relax. Perfection is not expected. In fact, I want you to make mistakes. The way to get better is to go out, make as many mistakes, fail as many times as you can, as fast as you can, so that you can learn how to do it right. And that's why we have graded speeches that add more and more as you go through the process of this public speaking class. So all of those things are important for you to remember. Now, one of the things we're going to cover in this class is critical thinking. Thinking critically is focused thinking. It's organized thinking. It's thinking about the relationships between ideas. Are the ideas cohesive? Do they fit together? Are they logical? Does this idea and this idea or this piece of evidence support a conclusion? All of that is part of critical thinking. We think about the soundness of the evidence. Is the expert you're quoting unbiased? Have you done good research? Is it new or recent evidence versus older evidence? All of those things we'll take into consideration as we study critical thinking. You need to notice the difference between fact and opinion. That's critical thinking. So much of what we see in the newspaper and so much of what we hear on TV is opinion. What's the difference between a solid fact and opinion? Critical thinking learns to tell the difference between the two. So we use critical thinking to organize our speech into a clear, cohesive presentation. We learn the role of evidence. We learn the role of reasoning. In other words, developing strong arguments. An argument is simply giving a piece of evidence, another piece of evidence, perhaps a third piece of evidence, and from those pieces of evidence, we draw a conclusion. That's reasoning. 4 types, we'll talk about them later. And then we need to know how to choose supporting material. What material will best support the conclusions I want my audience to accept? So we'll learn about supporting material in this class. The process involves 7 components. The speaker, you, are the first part of the process. Your success depends on your credibility. Are you trustworthy? Have you proven to us that you've done good, solid research and you've organized yourself well? And so we believe that you have knowledge and experience, and we trust you. That's credibility. And then preparation, delivery, sensitivity to the audience, all of those are involved in this first component, which is the speaker. The message is the content of your speech, the words, but more than the words, the gestures, the tone of voice, posture, facial expressions, all of these things communicate the intended message of your speech. So that's the second component. The third component is the channel, and this is the means through which the communication is given. It could be through a TV, it could be through radio, it could be through a microphone. In our case, it will be in a classroom, face to face. That will be the channel through which we communicate. Then there's the listener. Now you need to know that listeners filter everything in their minds through a frame of reference. That is their knowledge, their experience, their goals, their values, their beliefs. They have a filter they run everything through. Everyone's frame of reference is different. You need to understand that when you're communicating so that you can deliver a message that is applicable to any particular audience. So those are the first 4 parts of the process of public speaking. But going on with the process now, we have feedback. Now, feedback is the non-verbal motions of the audience. Perhaps they look confused, maybe bored, maybe they're pulling out their cell phones and looking on the internet. But anyway, you watch for feedback. If there's confusion or boredom, perhaps I need to tell a story here, or to pick up my voice, or to pick up the energy in my voice. All of those things are part of responding to feedback. And you will have interference. Interference distracts the communication process. There's external interference. Traffic, a hot room, a lawnmower outside. Internal interference. You're tired. You're hungry. You're having financial trouble. You're fighting with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. Those types of interference come into our minds, the internally, and prevent us from listening well to the message. So here's the person delivering the message. Here's the person receiving the message. The channel is a face-to-face communication. This person receiving the message is giving feedback, but there is external and internal interference that the listener must deal with to become a good listener and hear the message. And we will focus on that when we cover our chapter on becoming an effective listener. Now, then there's the situation. That's the time and the place. All of those 7 must be analyzed and understood if you're going to give an effective speech. Now, I want to talk about the multicultural world that you and I live in, and in fact our university is multicultural. There are 195 nations on the planet. 55 million different people live in the United States and speak a different language. Isn't that an amazing factor? We'll have people from other countries in our class. Some of you may be from another country. There is quite a bit of diversity. So the meanings of gestures are different. Facial expressions, non-verbal signals are different. For example, in Uganda, if you do this, we think in America we're saying goodbye. In Uganda it means follow me. So they interpret them differently. Some of you from other cultures could help us understand the different facial expressions and meanings of gestures that are used in your country. The point is, don't overlook cultural differences. Try to understand the culture that you're speaking to, especially if it's a different one, and that's what predominantly fills your audience. Now, another point I really want to make is that we need to avoid ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism. And that's simply the belief that one's group is superior to all other groups. Now, you don't have to agree with a group to approve of them as a person, or to value them, or to respect them. And that's really what we want to emphasize here. That people are going to differ, but we want to show respect to every individual, no matter what their cultural background. So when listening to other cultures, guard against judging them because of their culture, and give them a fair listening. Now, to review, we've talked about the similarities of speech and conversation. We mentioned stage fright, anxiety, some steps on how to overcome that. We talked about critical thinking, how to analyze ideas and to determine whether or not an idea is true or false based on the evidence and the reasoning. We talked about the 7 components or elements in the process of speaking: the speaker, the message, the channel, the listener, feedback, interference, and the situation. We talked about cultural differences, and we asked you to avoid ethnocentrism while speaking. Don't judge the audience, and while listening, don't judge the speaker. Class, these are great foundational facts about public speaking, and we'll be covering them in more detail as we move through this semester.